help to keep the radiation down from the planet, not figuring in the power of the jet stream. So if we had a web of, for instance, gold. Gold is an element that is used in all the planets because it doesn't dissolve. You can spin it as fine as thread, and if you can use it, it's used to purify the air. And they do that on other planets. So what we're trying to do, these guys are trying to create this thing. As you know, they changed the JP4, the jet fuel, and changed the new conditioner on it. So all the planes were going up there putting this fuel up here to create this web. And because of the winds, with dispersion, it's coming down, and what's it doing to you now? It's causing a lot of environmental, but remember, you're an expendable container anyway. They don't care because the plan is, again, to reduce the population down to 20 million Americans. That's the goal.
But it also affects them.
Remember, they wouldn't put things out there unless they have protection for themselves. So you have to look at it. They always have the other side of the coin.
Have you been in planets like Van Tassel down in the Yucca Valley?
No.
Remember that now? Talk about the big blaze.
Look, I knew Van Tassel a long time ago. And they were talking about the implants and everything. Those people who agree to be, let's say, an extension of them so they can monitor you. Remember when we sent down monitors on the planet? They're sending down drones. Some people volunteered, maybe in another life form, actually, or in another life, to come in at this time to act so they could monitor it, since time doesn't exist. As the ETs tell me, only clarity of experience. So all of these things are part of the puzzle I don't have all the answers to yet. I'm asking, but nor does it make any difference at this point. I do know that there's these little groups forming all around the planet with this little blue book everywhere. And I'm flying all over, I'm having a good time. And a lot of people are waking up, and amazing things are happening. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. What are the biggest groups that you just mentioned to communicate? Are there websites? Or, how do you...
My website is nohoax.com, and if you go to that website now, we just changed it 2 weeks ago, and there is an internet group that's setting up little functions all over the place, and they're joining. It's got some things on it, but there's groups following all over the place. How many of you have seen the video 9/11, the Great Illusion, by the one that's done out of Texas by George Humphrey? George Humphrey's got probably, I have it, it's $11 on my catalog. It's a 2.5-hour video. It's really a good one. It tells you what happened on 9/11. Anyway, I went down to his group. He has 100 people a week that meet on these books. George Humphrey. You take my catalog, it's on the back page. Okay. They're having meetings on this material in these books so they can rethink the ending of the story. Since everything is a product of the thought, let's rethink the ending of the story. But I don't know what the ending's going to be yet, so we have to call on however you view God. And I just told you my definition, and God is the creation's thinking. If the creation has put together all this to contemplate itself, it must have a solution to all of this. Yes, ma'am.
I was at a convention where David Moorhead was about visualization.
Yes. You were at a convention where David Moorhead said visualization? That's what we're talking about. But the problem is with our visualization is based on the 5 senses. Let me tell you how you think. You guys don't know how you think? Remember we talked about the 5 senses? Smelling, touching, tasting, and all of that? The truth is, when the sun comes up in the morning, there's a hormone that goes in your body. You all familiar with that hormone? Serotonin? That activates you to be in what we call the 3D world. When the sun goes down, there's another hormone that grows, and what do they call that? Yeah, Sera during the day and Mel at night, right? Between the hours of midnight and 4, if you give them permission, that's where the downloading and uploading happens. Where you ask, you'll get the best dreams and the best visualization between those hours, because theoretically your body's asleep, and now we're talking about pure spirit uploading and downloading, because you're basically a computer. And let's go back to the next thing. All thought from outside of you comes through your ductless glands in your brain. Study it and check it out, and then you find out if thought is out there. And if I can pull you up on top of this stage and have everybody think that you're weak, what did I do? I mean, you just demonstrated just what we're talking about. Okay, now we have to start going, there's another one. the thought above all of us, which is the thought of the creation, and we need all the help we can get, don't you think? And I want to thank you. I love you guys for coming down here and listening to me tonight. You got any more questions? Yes.
John Lear many years ago claims that there's the good ETs that are keeping the bad ETs in control.
John's a friend of mine.
Friend of mine.
John, actually, I was on the Art Bell show, and John wrote me a letter and said I was being set up. Just to give you know, no, it was a long time ago. I got set up recently with him again, too, but that's making a difference. I don't care. It doesn't, you know, it's whatever it is to get people awakened. No, neither one of the groups, they all understand the laws that you have right there, and they all of them have the same effect, and it explained in the second book, I think, Embracing the Rainbow, about the extraterrestrials. The first one doesn't, but the second one goes into the extraterrestrials because it's not really a focus for all of us right now. Extraterrestrials have their own agenda, and if you read page 78 through 80 of the handbook, just read the material. It'll tell you a little bit about dimensions and thought and how it works. And John and others, you know, bless them for out awakening you at the level that you're at.
Why do the Palladians call God all there is?
Above all things is the creation. That's what the Palladians said. I remember, I became in contact with the Palladians, but that since went away. I became in contact with the Umos, and I became the people from Mirasol. But then when I became in contact with, you call it at the spirit level, that's another one. And there's many levels of that. The focusing energy at the creation of thought is the one that's actually writing these books that you're reading.
Are you psychic like Van Tassel?
No, I'm not. What does psychic mean?
It means to be able to read people's minds like a big treasure.
Here's a problem that I have with remote viewing and psychic technology. You have to give permission. And if people come out and they say, I'm remote viewing, because there's a lot of them talking about going outside of your body. You can learn soul travel. And you're going somewhere else. You have violated one of the games or the premises, and that's basically the free will thing. You're going over to try to take control. I mean, I sat with Bob Beck, and he was telling me about all the government experiments of doing soul travel and checking out what other people are thinking. There has to be a repercussion to all of that. You just can't go do that. Even the ETs that are coming down here and picking people up. We don't know what their story is, but remember, in the long run, it all has to come back in balance. The 4 laws is the law of attraction. What you put out, you're going to get back. The second one is the law of intent. What did you intend for the action of your thought? The third one is the law of allowance. You have to allow that thought to be made manifest. And what's the 4th law? Balance. If it's not in balance, it's got to come undone, and we're out of balance.
Saddam Hussein that they have in prison now, is he the real Saddam Hussein?
The question is Saddam Hussein the real one? I have no idea, but he was CIA. Does Castro was CIA? Am I telling you? If CIA, these crooks in action are all part. Remember, Castro was being supplied by everything for us to go after Iran, if you remember. Obviously, he did something wrong, so what did they do? They just turned him into, you got a conflict resolution, you create the enemy. Eventually, when they reduce the world's population down to 500 million or less, we're going to have to create some enemy. Guess who that's going to be? The extraterrestrials from space. And it's all going to culminate about the year. Right now, you're seeing spacecraft all around the planet. That's to awaken you that there's something else going on. And why don't they come down here and save us? Again, it's a prime directive, non-interference. We can't interfere. We can give you information. You got to do it. Guys, I'm giving you the instruction book to get out of this mess. Yes.
You mentioned the 4 corners.
Yeah, Durango, Pagosa.
Publicized that the Indians have made underground.
That's correct. The question was the Four Corners area. It's publicized that the Indians are doing underground stuff. They're getting ready. They will. The Indian territory will be probably fairly safe if you're allowed to be over there. And that's the thing. You can look down there. Our small communities. Again, you have to be in balance. You have to figure a way to stay alive when there's no Social Security, and you're going to have to provide all these things. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, Pagosa Springs, a little town about 20 miles exactly east of Durango. Durango it's a nice little town, but it has a tremendous water problem. It's also at 8,000 feet. It's going to be relatively safe because there's not a lot of people. It's a college town. Pagosa Springs has a lot of retirees, better water. It's a climate. Again, these are things that you're looking at. I travel all over. I've looked up at, I went to the East Coast. I like Asheville, but I hate humidity. In the western United States, it's got a better deal without that. So, any other questions? Hey. No, he doesn't.
Well, he goes into areas such as reptiles and joints. He claims that the Bush family and the royal family are actually reptilians and blah, blah, blah.
David got his research from Arizona Wilder, who I lectured with out in California. And I checked with, I sat with Arizona because, she's a normal secretary per se. That isn't her real name. And then I checked with my CIA buddies, and it's kind of like a few other ones out here. Just be careful of all that information. Regardless of the bloodlines, whether they're reptilian or not, I don't really care. I'm not focusing on that. Now, Dave and I talked about that. Yeah, if you got nepotism within the ruling classes, they're going to make sure that they keep going on that. What difference does that make right now? I mean, if you go to China, do you think they're worried about them? China's got 1 billion, they admitted this last week. You hear that? 1,300,000,000 people. Guys, if you have a chance to go to China, you have no idea what that is. That's 5 times our population. All along the Yangtze River, which is not even going to the ocean right now. They're using all the water supply. They have all the money. They're the largest, basically we're the largest debtor nation in the world, and they're the largest creditor nation. And they've got 100 million men ready for military. Remember what George Washington's dream was? 100 million Chinese are going to walk across the Bering Strait and come down through the Northwest. I happen to know that what's scheduled right now, the Chinese, and I sat in China. I used to have friends in the government over. I sat with them when I showed them all the pretty pictures of Billy Meyer and all that. They have a government publication that comes out monthly on the ongoing direct contacts in China. They already know about it. They're also going to sit back, and they're in the massive observer mode as they control the thing, because they're going to sit back and watch us totally destroy. They got extraterrestrial craft that have fallen, and they figure they're going to use that technology they've got off the extraterrestrial craft to provide the free energy to run everything as we're destroyed ourselves.
Is Billy Meyer spreading the word in
Billy Meyer has got, yeah, he is. But nobody, he's been doing it for so long, and he has so much control on it, very few people, it's like I have his book in my catalog. Nobody buys it. It's past that point. Everybody wants to know what's happening today. It's the old thing. It's like I tell people, it's okay to look back. Don't stare. Only thing that exists is right now. That's all that exists, and what we create in the future. No, I'm not. No, I haven't read that book.
Area 51, Art Bell said he had a time on the show. I heard the program that worked side by side with the Grays.
The question was, Bob Lazar and the crew was working with the extraterrestrials at Area 51. Our government has been doing that. I actually published a book called UFO Crash at Aztec. Went into the 18 crashes in New Mexico. Did you know? 18 of them. Yeah, I lectured a few months ago in Aztec, New Mexico, and they have a museum down there about the crash. So 18 different ones on these craft material. Like Colonel Corso wrote a book the day after. You can get it at the bookstore right now. That's where they retrofitted all the engineering, so we have, quote, computers, fiber optics, and everything right off of alien spacecraft. That's how our technology jumped.